Welcome to Common Ground, your insight at Suffolk County. I am your host, Fernando Bossa. Today, my guest is Jim Dizio, Director of Education. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you. Nice to be here. I'm good. I'm good, thank you.
Tell me a little bit about how many years you've been with the department.
Well, I'm starting my 26th year at the Suffolk County House of Correction. It's been a very interesting time served there for myself, and I'm looking forward to continuing 26 more.
You know, I almost want to ask you what if you can remember like that first year and the year today differential, any huge changes?
Well, when we first started, the Suffolk County House of Correction was just opening. It opened at the very end of 1991 in December, and I came in January of 1992. And so there were offices that weren't completed yet. I remember the fresh plaster on the walls and things that were just, being completed. And we had to take a lot of the stuff that had come over from Deer Island, where where it was located originally, and so we had to find a spot for everything and create a schedule. And there was a lot to do, a lot unfinished. And now today, of course, many years later, we have things are finished, but things are also transitioning to meet the needs that we have now.
Of course. How long have you been with the department, Jim?
Well, as I say, this is my 26th year with the department. And in fact,
what were you doing before you came to the department?
Well, I had, just before I came, I was in the retail food business. I was a manager in one of the local area restaurant chains, and I was looking for work in education. And someone who knew me from the department at the House of Correction that I had known from high school asked if I was interested. He was working in personnel at the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department and asked if I would be interested, and I said sure. And here I am all these years later.
What a transition.
Yeah, it certainly, I couldn't have imagined it. It was something that I wouldn't have thought of on my own. It was brought to my attention. It was education, and I was definitely interested.
Awesome. And your overview of the education department?
We are an adult basic education department in a correctional facility. And essentially what that means is we provide basic math, reading, and writing services to individuals who are incarcerated or detained in the Suffolk County House of Correction. And we try to improve their reading and writing skills.
That's great, because actually that was going to be my next question. Like the level of education that we have these men at.
Yeah, roughly speaking, the average reading level is right around 7th grade or so, and the average math score slightly lower, right around 5th grade level, based on the testing that we do.
And those testings usually, they take an amount of time when you're doing those testings, right? They're run for a few weeks, on a daily basis?
Yeah, we do it consistently. We do it consistently right when someone comes into the facility. After a few days, we try to reach out to them, and we give them a test in reading and math. And we use those scores for placement, initial placement, and then we create the different lists for individuals based on those scores.
Talk a little bit about your high-set training, testing.
The high school equivalency test is what the HiSET stands for. We offer that testing, and we are in fact a high school equivalency test center. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education asked that all the county houses of correction become their own separate test center. And so we can do our testing for high school equivalency when someone is ready. I can speak a little bit more in a few minutes about the classes that we take, but that we give. And so we are able to determine and offer the testing for individuals, when they're ready. When they're ready to test.
When you get folks interested in the education piece and then the testing piece, do you find some of the men that are interested to further their education going to college, asking about it?
Yeah, and we encourage it, because in addition to the teaching, we also have educational advisors who work with individuals to figure out, just as you say, what their plans are while they're with us, and what their plans are when they leave us. And even previously, some folks come in with different levels of education. Not everybody, needs their high set, or some folks come in already with a high school credential. Some do come in with college. So we try to help kind of put their educational needs together for them.
What happens in the, scenario that you get someone who speaks Spanish only, and then they have that deficiency of language?
Well, we do have individuals who are able to do some translating for us. We reach out, if no one in the department. I do happen to speak a little Spanish myself, and I do understand. It's
muy bien, muy bien.
Sí, bien. I do. I'm not certainly going to try to give you I wouldn't try it now and here. But, I am able to myself do a little bit of communication for individuals. We also do have some staff that we reach out to, not only in education, but throughout the facility, who are willing to help us, with individuals who need that translation piece.
Talk to us a little bit about other classes that you have at service.
Sure. So, as I say, we offer basic reading and writing classes. We have offered English as a second language classes for individuals who need it. Most of our need in that area is for the Latino and Hispanic population. We do have other languages as well, Chinese.
Yeah. Okay.
Because we do get some individuals from all over the world who come to us here at the House of Correction.
So Chinese, like second from Spanish?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we've had those needs. We've had, I think, Laotian and other languages, but it's mainly Spanish that folks for the English as a second language piece need. And in addition to the the high set preparation, we also have financial literacy classes for individuals to help them get their financial scope in need. We offer some parenting classes for individuals who are dads, as well as we have a Freedom from Violence program for individuals who need to look at their behavioral tendencies, and hopefully that they can understand a little bit better about themselves.
I'm actually going to ask you to just tell me a little bit about those two programs, because they sound very interesting. The parenting class,
yes,
in itself, there is a sort of something that you have. They also have the men, fathers involved in something that we're reading to their children type of programming.
Yes, we do.
Tell me just a little bit about that, because that's very interesting.
So our parenting instructor's been doing this for over 20 years. And it's a group setting, and they're usually very, very well attended. It's a large group setting, and individuals there learn about developmental needs of children, as well as how they can develop their parenting skills to be more effective. In addition, we have a pediatrician from Boston Medical Center come in about 3 or 4 times a year to speak to the group, as well as you were mentioning the Fathers Read Aloud program we have, where dads can choose a book based on the age of their children, and they have an opportunity to read the book and record it, and then send the book with the recording to their children.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm sure in the holidays, I got to be a favor.
I'll tell you, it's has been very successful, and we get a lot of notes back from the kids saying how much that they really have appreciated that. Of course, the older ones, of course.
What's a typical day for you, Jim, in the education division?
Well, we run basically Monday through Friday. And we start at about 7:30 in the morning. Teachers come in and they start getting ready for their classes for the day. And we run a pretty similar schedule to what you might find in a regular school setting. So classes begin at 8, and then they run throughout the morning every hour. And a lot of students actually, when they come, they attend double sessions usually. So usually they're there for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And we wrap up the morning at about 11:45. Then we break for lunch. And we come back for the afternoon session from 1 to about 2:45. And that's a good chunk of our day in our classes are covered during that time. And we have some evening programs on Monday and Tuesday evenings that run from 3:30 to 9. And that's where we, for example, have tutors coming in from Boston College and Harvard University for many, many years. We have had an ongoing relationship with
Really
them.
good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, and they
Sign
help.
me up.
Yeah. And they're very, very willing to serve. So we're part of their service learning programs. And they do come and they help both, and I should mention, it's both the men and the women that we serve in education. We offer programming for both men and women, and the tutors, help out with both men and women.
Well, great. And I know that you mentioned earlier when we were talking about parenting, you also mentioned about freedom from violence. I wanted you to tell me just a little bit about that, because I know that's another dear program.
Sure. So the Freedom from Violence program, again, another long-standing program with the department, developed back in the mid-1990s, and our instructor has been with the department for close to 30 years. And it's all been developed throughout his course of tenure at the department. And what we do, it's a very intensive program. It's a 2-month program where the individuals come every day, and they are challenged to think about different issues such as domestic violence, how substance abuse can, make individuals change their behavioral patterns and things like that. So, and it's pretty, as I say, it's pretty intense.
Jim, you taught before.
Yes.
What was that like?
Well, I have taught, I've been in education overall now for a little over 30 years. And I first taught the 6th grade, way back when, right out of school. 6th grade? Way back when, right out of school. And I also taught several years in high school as well, high school history. And also in a learning center for about a year. Currently, in addition to being Director of Education, I'm in my 5th year now as Director of Education at the House of Correction, I also have served as a high school equivalency teacher and an educational advisor and educational supervisor. So I've done all the different roles that you can in the education department, and currently now as an administrator, as a director. And I also teach part-time in the evening at North Shore Community College as well.
No little time in betweens that you can do something differently?
Well,
your time is really well consumed.
Yeah, no question.
That leads me to my next question. Why is education so important and important to the men in our custody?
Well, the one thing I have to say is there was a study done a couple years ago by the RAND Corporation. And it was, what is one of the greatest, what greatly impacts the reduction of recidivism? And of course, that's what our department is all about, planning for individuals' future. So education gives individuals an opportunity to develop the skills and their own personal self-development as well, achievement. So education and the way we present it is very achievement-oriented. It makes people feel good about themselves when they can, increase their reading or writing or get their high school equivalency diploma with us. And I'm very, very proud to say that in the 26 years, over 2,000 individuals have earned their high school equivalency credential with us. And I'm very proud of that. But it's a testament to the department and the individuals, the staff, who, and when I say staff, I mean custody as well as non-custody staff, because it really takes both, that type of collaboration.
Yeah.
So it really does help education, really does help individuals get to the next level of where they would like to go, whether it's to further their education in post-secondary ed, or of course to find a good job and maintain a good job.
And this is for our men and women, so.
For both, yes, men and women, absolutely.
But you have a library there too.
We do. We have an excellent library.
Yes.
I'm very proud to say we have 2 Master of Science librarians. They earn their master's degree in library science, and we provide top-notch services. We have a main library in our general education area, and we also go to the different units and deliver books and services to both men and women, and including the special housing and the community works program. We try to, if someone can't come to us, we go to them. And I might also add, we do that as well with our educational services as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've been through the library, and it's very, very informative. You definitely have books from all over, from every topic, computers, and also varieties of different educational and training films that just really, it's overwhelming. It's a very nice, established
We try. We
Yeah.
really try, Fernandito. We try.
No. The best part of your work you do. The best part, because all of it sounds good.
And it is a busy day, I will tell you. But I must say, from the very moment that I became a member of the Suffolk County House of Correction Education Department, working directly with the offenders has always been my, what I really like to do the most. Right off the bat, I don't know, it just clicked with me. And I continue to this day, even as director, when I can, I meet directly with the individuals who are incarcerated in our custody. And, I ask them questions. I try to do what I can, some of their requests that they make. I continue to want to interact with them.
That's tremendously amazing. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on and continue the work that you're doing, because you're definitely changing lives and transforming. But thank you for being on the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Yeah. It's been my pleasure.
And that's all we have for this segment, but we'll be back. Welcome to Common Ground, an inside look at Suffolk County. I am your host, Fernandito Bossa. Today, my guest is Trucy Ala, Assistant Deputy Superintendent of Reintegration Services. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's nice to have you here.
Pleasure.
Tell us a little bit about how many years you've been in the department.
So I've been with the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department for 17 years and counting in one role or another.
Yeah. So you actually been in a couple of little departments, or it's been always the same department with many changes?
Yeah. When I started out, I was a faith-based mentor coming in as with the Bossa Reentry Initiative, and I was a mentor. And then I moved to a case manager, and then coordinator of the BRI program, and then director, and then about a year and a half working on 2 years in my current role.
Oh, so a couple of ranks. Kind of moved up the chain. That's awesome. And how did you come to work for the department?
So I started out volunteering through the ministry at Muhammad's Mosque with Minister Don Muhammad. And at the time that I was coming in as a volunteer, the city was trying to combat, gang violence and trying to find, people that could impact the population that we serve in a way to push them in a positive direction. So I started out as a volunteer. As I was volunteering, they were looking for grant funding to support an initiative which ultimately became the Boston Reentry Initiative.
Yeah, and that's something that was really, at the time, kind of big, right? The gangs and all that kind of stuff going in the community. So they were really trying to really find folks that had the experience that you have to really, bring that out and talk about it and kind of have that support and help out there.
Yeah, and it was a multifaceted approach. You had the police department, you had the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department, the U.S. Attorney, the District Attorney, probation, parole, and then a host of community-based organizations and faith-based organizations trying to get into the mind and the hearts of our residents to try to get them to help themselves before they return back to the community, and hopefully get them to return as an asset versus a liability. And one of the best ways to do that is to find someone who has similar life experiences, because then it lends instant credibility, it gets instant buy-in to what we're selling, and that's change, and that's being a citizen.
And that's something you know. That's something you know very, very well, I must say. Well, what areas do you oversee?
So I oversee the Bossa Reentry Initiative, which is the multifaceted program that's focused on gang-involved, or what law enforcement would deem impact players. Then the Common Ground Institute, which encompasses our vocational track, small engine repair, basic auto, culinary arts. So that whole vocational track is under me. Family Matters program, which is a new initiative of the sheriff, is under me. What else? Discharge planning is also under me. So all of our opioid addicted residents who need halfway houses, who need transitional housing programs, that discharge planner and that process falls under my
We're
watch.
actually going to go into a little bit of that in the further, but I wanted to go back to the auto. You said auto mechanic?
Basic auto.
Yeah, talk about a little bit of those services.
So basic auto, so anyone who, from anything from changing oil to changing a tire. So we have a garage in the vocational in the back of the facility. And so we work on all of the department vehicles. And we get a host of, I'd say 5 to 6 offenders per cycle. And we teach them everything from, raising a car up on the level, on the
lifters.
In the lift,
lifters, yeah.
Just push it up. Everything from that to changing tires to oil to anything that we need done, basic auto, they get to learn that.
Oh, that's great. That's amazing stuff. Talk a little bit about the reintegration services and why it's so important, because this is it. This is why it's so important.
I think reintegration services are critical because reentry, as you know, starts day one. And one of the mandates of this,
Day one from when they come in?
from when they come in, because you can't wait till at the end of their sentence to start reentry and discharge planning. It really starts day one. One of the things that sticks out is the sheriff's one of his mandates is we want everyone who is sentenced to our custody to return to the community in a better state. So we want them to be able to have more tools in their toolkits than when they came into custody. So that's why it's important, because at the beginning and end of every day, it's about public safety. If we get someone who didn't finish their high set, as you had Director Dizio on talking about earlier, and we can get them to accomplish that, then our director or our workforce development manager can place them on a job, because every job needs at least a high school equivalency to get a positive job placement. So that's important.
Yes.
If someone came in and they were angry, we would push them to the Freedom from Violence program, because we need them to be able to comport themselves in a professional manner in a work environment versus thinking that they were on the streets. So a lot of those soft skills we help foster as well. I forgot to mention one of the other programs that's under my jurisdiction or oversight is professional development attitude training.
Yes.
And that's where we give all of our residents the soft skills, how to dress for success, how to come in and make yourself
presentable
and handle yourself the way that you should.
Yeah, correct. You also mentioned workforce development. And as folks come in, this all needs to prep for them. This is another of your sites or departments you see, and they're in charge of helping sort of customize or looking into the skill set of the individual so that they could look upon what type of employment they're going to be going out into the community?
So the primary role of the workforce development manager is to create, CORE-friendly employer partnerships for the Sheriff's Department. Okay. That's primary. And then he also does a class in the Common Ground Institute, 2 times a week when they're in cycle, basically giving them professional development attitude training. I call it a checkup from the neck up, because a lot of times it's not about finding a new skill or new talent. It's just about using that skill or talent in the right way. We say to the guys all the time, on and off the record, we are not trying to knock or change your hustle.
That's right.
We just need you to change your product.
Very
the skills that you had in the streets that you were using in a negative way are those same skills you can use in a professional setting. And once they buy into that, then the light comes on, and then they're able to move forward the way we would want them to.
I like the way you put that. That was really well said, because I know of don't remember the numbers, but I know it was a few men that I've ran into in the community, and they had mentioned what that had done for them, and how with that mindset, they were able to begin working off a little cart like they do at Dudley Square or Faneuil Hall or downtown Boston, those little carts that sell scarves and phones and keychains. And I believe one of the gentlemen ended up turning that into, within a few years, and has a storefront in the store. So it was a story that was like, I couldn't believe that all of this came out of that idea, how it is, you know, and it's changing, like you said, it's not changing the mind, it's not changing the person, it's just changing the hustle.
Right, and therein lies, you are your best product.
Yes,
You know?
yes. Talk to me a little bit about BRI.
So BRI is what it stands for, is the Boston Reentry Initiative. It's a partnership between the Sheriff's Department, the Police Department, the U.S. Attorney, the District Attorney, Probation, Parole, YOU, Youth Options Unlimited, which is quasi City of Boston agency. They work with court-involved, gang-involved, impact players. And when I say impact players, that's what the police department determined for an individual who's gang-involved, gang-affiliated, who's kind of driving violence and driving drug distribution and making a mess in our community. And the ultimate goal is, if we can get the bad apple to buy into what we're selling, then maybe we can save the rest of the bag of apples. So that's why it was a targeted approach specifically on those who are the worst of the worst, if they're, for lack of better words, for our population, because these are the guys that are shooting, these are the guys that have the gun cases, these are the guys that, it's a small percentage, but they're warranting about 100% of our resources.
Yeah, and like you were saying, you know, you mentioned all the different partners that you have in line. It's a very well set up that you do. They come in, they present, the men have the option to listen, and then be able to, after the presentation, they're able to talk to these individuals on a one-to-one basis to learn more about the cases, the volumes, what their decisions might be when they get out. I really enjoyed how that really takes in effect. And as a matter of fact, you have, I would say, a role model. You had ones come to that panel and that presented where, you know, following the process, doing what he was supposed to be doing, followed the YOU you mentioned, and then now today he's working citizen, has a really good job.
That's right. And what you just described, which I didn't say earlier, was the panel process. The panel is the introductory phase of the BRI. It's kind of like where all of our partners that I just listed come into the Sheriff's Department, normally the last Wednesday of every month, and they basically present their aspect of being a part of that partnership and what they do. So it's a two-pronged message. One of them is kind of hard, you know, the stick, the law enforcement. If you reoffend at this level, this is what you're facing. And then there's the community side, you know, the YOU, the Whittier Street Health Center, and saying, look, come to us, let us help you be a better you. What I like about the law enforcement piece is it's a one-time informational session where you're given a warning shot to correct your behavior. And if you don't, this is what you're facing. The prosecutors don't disrespect them, they don't demean them, but they let them know exactly where they stand prior to release. What I appreciate about that is when you're young and you're going through the juvenile justice system, a lot of the older guys, the OGs, will tell you, you get the case, it's not gonna affect you. But in reality, it does affect them. Everything is in play when you're talking courts. Now, can they hide your criminal record if you're a juvenile, if you're going for a job or housing? Yes. But if you reoffend, all of your history is in play and being considered. So that's a myth that they help dispel, and I just appreciate it.
This next question is a program that's very dear to my heart. Family Matters.
Okay.
I like that. Family Matters. Tell me a little bit about the Family Matters.
So Family Matters is a new program under Sheriff Tompkins. Beautiful idea, because it helps young men who are in our custody learn about being parents, learn about being good fathers, despite how the relationship of them and their child's mother is, if it's good or bad. It matters, but what's more important is that they are active participants in their children's lives. Children don't get to choose who their parents are, right? They're here, and so we need to make sure that the young men are coming out better equipped to be better fathers and work at reunification. If they can stay married, that's great. If they can't, they need to figure out why it's important to have a cordial relationship one to another for the betterment of the child. Oftentimes what we see is it gets bitter, it gets contentious. And what ends up happening is the child ends up being used as a pawn in the middle of a relationship. And the one that suffers the most is the child. And so Family Matters is critical because it highlights that. And it lets guys get out of their anger toward their significant others and focus on the best part. And the best part is the child.
That's right. Elaborate a little bit on the discharge planning. You mentioned that earlier. Discharge planning plays a very significant role in where they're going to go once they completed their sentence. Some of them needing programs, maybe further programs, or where they're going?
So discharge planning is everything from figuring out where an individual is going to live. If he didn't finish his high school diploma or his high set, where can we refer him to finish it? I know we have partnerships with Department of Ed through the city of Boston with Michael Farmer, who's in touch with Jim Dizio, the director of our education, on a regular basis. Everything from as simple as a birth certificate to everything as profound as a transitional housing program. Mass IDs,
Social Security, birth
Social
certificates, all that good
Security,
stuff, huh?
Mass Health. We have someone from Mass Health comes in on a monthly basis for all of our soon-to-be released guys that need Mass Health or do not have health insurance and signs them up. So that all comes under the discharge planner as well. And anyone who receives a positive parole vote to a program, the discharge planner is working with the different sober houses, transitional houses, long-term treatment programs to get those acceptance letters and giving them to parole and helping guys transition out.
Wow.
All that is a part of discharge planning.
Great. And for people that might be watching right now, or are eventually going to watch the show, how could people outside, help reentry reentry be more successful?
So one simple way right now, we have a coat drive going on right now.
Oh, okay.
So anyone who has old winter coats, if someone was arrested in the summer and they're being released in the winter, they don't have a coat. So you can make donations to the Sheriff's Department for that. Everything from, if it's a corporate organization or business, providing 1 or 2 or 3, CORE-friendly hiring positions to the Sheriff's Department. You can help in that way. The biggest way a common person can help is figuring out a way to unstigmatize the returning citizen population. So we keep saying returning citizen because it sounds so much more user-friendly than ex-con or ex-felon or someone being released. So I think the way we approach individuals who have a history. I used to say when I was on a panel, I was ill-adversely affected by the criminal justice system. That sounds so much better than just got out of jail.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think the way that we receive, our returning citizens in the community with open arms and the way we, unstigmatize that whole process, I think is helpful. Because what happens is when employers look to hire and they see that someone has one, and if they don't understand it and they're not someone who's, community competent about or socially empathetic to the process, just the fact that you have a CORE could make someone shut a door on you. So I think the more we educate, the more we show how using the right language to describe an individual helps. I mean, to be honest, most of the prophets of God were arrested. But when we mention the prophets of God, we revere and we honor what they did to reflect God's righteousness. But in fact, we could call, many of the prophets ex-cons, but we don't do that. I think we need to have that same reverence and same respect or sensitivity when we're describing people who are transitioning out.
AD Azala, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And that's all the time we have for this segment. Stay tuned next week. Thank you.